Hey guys, Mike here. So what a blah day in the market. That's the best way to describe it, where it really didn't move too much up and down, stayed in a tight range. And it seemed like, we're coming at a quarter in, and it seems to be the way the market wants it to be, because when you look at the options market, things like that, it's not really pricing in some huge move, really up or down. Remember, we are coming into quarter end here, right? And so we're going to kind of go into some things to watch out for, because I think something underneath the hood there is happening. But we're also getting economic data out. We're getting some earnings out, which we're going to talk about real quick. You see Micron came out, disastrous earnings, but don't sweat it. The stock barely has moved. I mean, disastrous earnings. But when you look at what's going on here, you can see this plain as day what we talk about. Tech, right? Everybody's been rolling into tech, right? Trying to drive it up for the first quarter and stuff. And at the same time, you see what the S&P has been doing. Been going up, not as much though. Everybody's been loving tech. And then of course, what else has been moving like crazy? The 2-year yield. Again, the bond market has no clue what the market's really going to do. It's just guessing. But we hadn't seen moves like this since '08 in the dot-com bubble. I mean, the volatility is just unbelievable. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. That seems to be the consensus. And that's just insane. Of course, that's going to throw markets all over the place, right? Now, the economic data I told you, I think it's going to start getting paid a lot more attention to. Stuff like the Dallas Fed manufacturing data that came out, like hours worked, for example. You see that dotted line, that's kind of the key line you don't want to go below. You can see it's been trending down since 2021. We've hit this line before and got saved from it. But normally if we get a big move below this line, that tells you exactly what's fixing to happen, right? And it's nothing good. Usually it's a recession, right? And so then also you have the prices paid for the raw materials they use, right? Again, we've been at this line before. You can see in 2020, major drop. 2015, that's when the market was tanking. Major drop in the market there. But then, of course, you see '08. So you don't want to see a big move down, right? But, of course, to go ahead and go against the grain on that, I told you, man, people are spending, dude. Look at Lululemon. I mean, we're talking about, what is it, $200 for a pair of, like, warm-up pants there? They crushed earnings, right? Beating expectations on top and bottom line. And better yet, basically, for the fiscal year, they upped their guidance, right? They said, okay, yeah, we think we're going to come in for EPS around 11.5 and 11.72. The expectation is 11.27. And so, once again, I mean, that's not cheap stuff, right? And so, they killed it. And then you got Micron reporting disastrous earnings, and they end up barely moving. But you would thought with the earnings they reported, it was so bad that they would just be getting crushed. But they're not, because it's semiconductors. And what are semiconductors doing right now, right? They're in this basically cloud or reality of their own right now, no matter what seems to happen. We'll see how tomorrow opens up, of course. But, looking at the indexes, here's a couple things to start watching out for very closely. These moving averages, they're getting really, really close, okay? And when you see a bunch of, I got 4 of them here, I'll put them here for you. They start consolidating together. That means there's going to be a move in one direction or the other. You can see it right here when they cluster together like this. That's where we're at now. You can see anytime they cluster, you see right there, that's when we start going into the big crash, right? We scroll back some more. Anytime you see it, obviously, big cluster drop, big cluster move up, and it goes both directions, okay? So you can see it, but something's going to happen, because normally, obviously, an extended move up or extended move down, you'll see them separate out, but now they have all decided to cluster together. You can see it multiple times here when it happens. That's what you want to see, right? If we ever get a big move up, and they'll start moving apart, but looking back, for example, at the dot-com bubble, you saw it multiple times. This right here was a cluster. That was the last big push down. They clustered again, and then we got the huge move up, and we were out of the bear market. And if you get anything out of this, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And if you're new, think about subscribing. If you like this content, I really appreciate your support. And so that is definitely something to keep a close eye on. Here are 2 more things to keep an eye on. The Qs, for example. All right, so obviously you can see we talked about a double top, right? Maybe playing out. So far, that seems to be the case, but you can see it's still stuck in this ascending triangle that's right there. And so again, I don't expect us to even break it through that trend line right there. I don't expect it at all. But if a double top does play out and the market's allowed to move as it should, that would take us breaking out of the ascending triangle, which would be a nice move down back into the chop box. You can see the MACD is trying to roll over. You can see the RSI is trying to move down. And when you look at the RSI, I think it's trying to maybe tell us something. Obviously, that's just moving sideways in a way, but look at the RSI, right? And so maybe it's trying to tell us, hey, we're finally get some kind of move down. Again, just getting down to that trend line right there. If we get a bounce, that's not a big move at all, okay? It wouldn't surprise me especially this week, I don't expect it because unless some major event happens, I don't see it happening at all. Now, I will say this, watch Meta real quick. I want to put this in here because it did fall below that trend line I talked about. It goes all the way back to 2013. The trend line I've drawn, the ascending trend line for me, I mean, that's really what it matters to me. Until it breaks that right there, I don't really care. But again, everybody wants to see that gap fill below. So if it starts to show weakness and it starts breaking that trend line right there, which obviously it's held since, the beginning, all the way through the year here. I think December 28th it started this ascending move up. And so just wait for that right there, see if the bears jump on it or not, or if it's able to reclaim that trend line or not. And of course, if the Qs and tech keep showing weakness, there's a chance this does as well because big money has basically done what they wanted to do and filled those two big gaps and stuff. So just something to think about and keep in mind. Well, now, watch the IWM, okay? Because the IWM, we put these indicators on here, is kind of the opposite, right? It's getting a bullish cross on the bottom where the MACD is down there. Obviously, it's been over sold territory. It's back in this chop box where it loves to be in these ranges for months on end. But it is starting to move up, right, slightly over the last couple of days as the Qs and SPY have moved down, right? And so you got to ask yourself, so what does IWM hold, okay? So the big ones are going to be consumer cyclicals, financial services, the banks, that's the big one. Healthcare is another big one. Industrial is another big one. And then you have tech. But over half of this index is almost financial services, industrials, and healthcare. And the reason why I say that, let's see what big money does, okay? Because you can look at what's going on with bank stocks. They love valuations, right? Well, these bank stocks have been getting hammered. Right now, the valuation basically is down, as you can see, to where it was almost in 2020, below any other times you can see going back to like 2011 there. And just want to put this in there as a side note, banks are terrible businesses. If you don't believe that, all you got to do is look at the total number of banks and the declines we had, right? I mean, you look right here, we did have a total of 12,227 banks in 1992. Now we're down to 4,237. But what's crazy is just look at the damage the financial crisis did. Like, people decided we ain't even opening up banks, okay? I mean, look at this. They were trying to open up banks. Look at all these charters. They're like, let's open them up, let's open them up. And then look at this mess. Since then, hardly any at all, right? And you can just see the decline in numbers of banks that have closed, went out of business, just for whatever reason. And obviously, I'm talking about brick and mortar banks, of course, right? And so, you know, you look at that mess, but understand if big money decides, hey, we this first quarter we ran up tech, right, in the environment you really don't think tech would do well in. But of course, when I say tech, I mean 7 stocks. It's ran the 7 stocks up, right? And so those moving up while IWM has been getting crushed. So what does it normally do in this range? You'll try to rotate out and say, well, we got some good profits out of tech. Maybe we'll roll some into the banks because of the valuations and because the government's backstopping them and everything else. And we've seen they'll do whatever they have to do to hold the banking system up, right? And so you might see IWM start to move up. Maybe the Qs start to move down, which of course, if the banks come back, you see an energy come back as well. It's another thing to watch out for the last few days. Energy has been moving up as well. And the other sectors that weren't moving, right, in the last month, now all of a sudden they're starting to take first place every day here, and the percentage gains high, right? So just watch out for that, because you know they love to run something up, rotate the money, roll it into something else, and then try to run something else up, which in this case would be IWM. We'll see if that happens or not. I'm not saying it should happen. I'm just saying we've seen it multiple times already in the last 12 months. This is what's been happening. Okay, and so again, we'll see. We're coming into April next week, obviously, and April, of course, 80% of the time is green. That does not mean it's up 20%. Okay, that just means it's green. And if you're up 0.01%, that's green. Okay, so there's no guarantee in that. But as we can see, it don't seem to matter what the news comes out at, as far as bank failures or anything else. It don't matter. The market still just cannot go down. Okay, it just don't seem to want to go down or be allowed to go down. So keep that in mind. Now, I will say this, and maybe it's just me, but I put this to the members this morning, and I was like, can somebody tell me, do you see anything bullish with this? Because I sure don't see anything bullish about it, especially for the future here, the next 15 to 20 years for China. But it says China's population shrank last year as births have fallen again and deaths keep rising as nation ages. And you can just see the birth rate, man. I mean, when they started that one-child policy, it fell off a cliff. But look at 2016 to now. I mean, just fell off a cliff. Then look at the deaths, right? They keep rising because they have an older population. Now, so their population is definitely going to be shrinking because you can't fix that policy they put in place. And I don't think it'd be that big a deal, but the fact is, what do? They make everything. They make everything we have, right? So all of a sudden you got a big Asian population, can't go in the factories, right? You got hardly any, nowhere near the amount of births that you used to have. And so you're going to have this huge gap coming up, right, for people to start taking over these kind of jobs. And they've been promised to go to the service sector for so long, they just hadn't done it. And so it's going to be interesting, to see, because, and that's going to affect everybody else, right? Because they don't have the population to hold up the industrial side of things. It's not like we make things here. I keep saying bring stuff home, let's make it, but I guess I'm in the minority on that. I guess we can't do it, right? That's what they keep saying, but I think it can be done. I think we can make stuff. I think we have people that want to go work and actually do stuff like that. But again, I could be totally wrong. So, let me know in the comments what you think on that. But yeah, it's not just going to affect, this is not just going to affect China, it's going to affect us, because also China and their people, they invest a lot, right? In America and other countries and stuff. So yes, it's going to have a big effect. And you see that right here, where I showed you our birth rate and the shrinking working age population and the effect it's having and the effect it's going to have for a long time. Ours about the same, about 2018, started flattening out and then slowly turning over. And so that's not a good thing, I guess I should say, But anyway, just wanted to put that out there, food for thought. I know some of you guys are really big in that stuff, so you can help us out in the comments, tell us what you think. But also let me know what you think about rotation. Are we going to start rotating into the IWM? Do you see financials, the big money trying to start pushing things up? Now the government's kind of said we'll probably do whatever we have to do to hold it up. Are they going to be like, we're good, because right now with the rates staying where they're at, and the fact they still think the Fed's going to cut, which again, if the Fed cuts, it means everything is going to heck in a handbasket, okay? I just need you to understand that. Just keep that in mind before you think about anything else, okay? So anyway, hope you got something out of it, guys. Hit the like, subscribe if you did. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow.